This right here is the PlayStation 5 DualSense. Yes, it's powered up because we are going to go hands-on with the PlayStation 5. Hey guys, it's Jeff Keighley, and this is a special Summer Game Fest stream. Really a special year for all of us that new consoles are coming out, and a lot of people have wondered what PlayStation 5 is going to play like. A big part of that is the controller and the experience of playing games, especially because this controller is a little different than the traditional DualShock. And I've got that here, my PS4 Pro DualShock. This is a form factor that really has been around since the original PlayStation, in various different forms. There weren't analog sticks back then. But the DualSense introduces a couple new innovations, and having played it here for a couple of hours, I'll kind of summarize those for you before we get into some gameplay. The big things that I've noticed are the adaptive triggers, the L2 and R2. So outside of the game environment, you just kind of pull these down like any controller. But when you're in a game, there's actually the possibility to create tension points or haptics inside of these adaptive triggers. So imagine pulling this down and feeling the pressure from a bow in a bow and arrow, or even in an action game, pulling this down and feeling active reload points, where designers can actually create tension points as you pull this down at certain percentages, and give the player feedback. So I think that's a unique sensation that is going to have a pretty big impact, I think, longer term on gameplay. The other thing inside of this controller are the haptics. So PlayStation had Rumble for quite some time, but the haptics add another layer to the experience. It's not just sort of one rumble point. And so it's not just kind of on or off. There's the ability to create other sensations. As you'll see in this demo I'm going to show you of Astrobot's Playroom, you'll see what ice feels like, what sand feels like, and different surfaces. The other thing that I've noticed is that the speaker in the DualSense, it feels like it has much more range than the PlayStation 4 speaker, and it often directly ties into what's happening with the haptics. At least in Astro's Playroom, there's much more variety in the types of sounds coming out of the speaker. And I'm sure every game will use it differently or may not use it as much. But at least in this demo, you really do sense that there's a lot going on with the haptics and there's sound that ties into it. And then when you combine that with the Tempest 3D engine in PlayStation 5 for the speakers, the sort of harmony between the controller sound and what's happening in the PlayStation 5 is really, really unique and interesting. So those are the things I noticed in it. Some people have asked also about, like, what's the weight of it? What does it feel like? Compared to the DualShock for PS4, it definitely weighs a little bit more, but doesn't feel substantially heavier. And if anything, I think it actually has a little more heft to it, in a good way, that it feels more structured, and there's more sort of inside of it. So centered, but definitely feels good to me. So let's talk about what we're going to play today. What we're going to check out is Astro's Playroom, and that is the game that comes packed with the PlayStation 5. It is pre-installed on the system. You don't even have to download it. And it's not just like a tutorial demo of 15 minutes. It's a multi-hour game. We're going to get to play one section of it today. And I think the reason we're playing this is because it comes with the system and it really showcases the controller. So, of course, everyone wants to see what Horizon Forbidden West looks like on the system. And this is a demo that is focused, I think, more on the controller and the haptics and the adaptive triggers versus trying to showcase the power of the SSD or, the true graphics horsepower of PS5. So that's all stuff we can look forward to. We've seen those games, at the event, and they look spectacular. So that's another aspect of PS5 that I'm sure hopefully we'll get to see more of in the coming weeks. But at least right now, we're going to look at the controller and how that relates to gameplay with Astro's Playroom. So let's call it up here and go hands-on live with PS5. So you can even hear the sound of my bot walking around. So full 6 degrees of motion as always. Looks like I'm going to have to flick up here on the pad to release my bot. And we are in CPU Plaza. The thing about this game, as you will see in this demo, there are a lot of references to the history of PlayStation. So Cooling Springs is the area that is open on Jeff's demo of this game. And we are going to jump in here and just go through this experience with the bot. All right, so we're on the beach here. There are beach balls you can play around with. There are some bots enjoying life, sunning themselves. Bot on vacation here. Should I disrupt them? Let's do it. How rude of me, right? And then we're going to head on over here into this sandstorm created by, I guess, these CPU fans. And again, when you get into this environment, I'm static here, but you hear the crisp sounds of sand coming at you. There's a tension in the controller from going over this sand environment. And then you push further in. And here we are. And look! The rubber ducks are back! Remember the duck demos? PlayStation 3, I think that was. Rubber ducks. All right, so I have this suit, and I'm going to push up on the controller to zip him up. This is the frog suit. And this frog suit shows off the adaptive controllers. So I'm going to move my controller left and right. And these adaptive triggers are really, really cool. And I've never felt something like this before in a console controller. As you push down on the controller, there's tension now in these adaptive triggers, and it's programmable. One thing that I think is really fun about this demo is it makes you think of how